Welcome back, Powerful Mind. How are you guys doing today? We've missed you so much since last time, baby. We are back and we are better than ever. And today we are here with one of my partners from Vamp Entertainment's very own.
It's your boy Joshua. October.
And we have such an exciting interview for you here today. And make sure you finish and you watch from start to finish because he is just dropping knowledge and gems.
Tune in.
And we're going to run the intro now.
Hey.
Hey, hey. Is that nice little smooth beat? Powerful Mind. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Hey.
So you've done so many things. So I just kind of want you to tell your journey from start to finish and all the different hats and all the different things you've done.
For sure. It's been a long journey. So for those who aren't aware, I kind of like started my career as like a professional dancer. Like I actually taught myself how to dance. Yeah, you know, just like really just watching a lot of YouTube videos. And like this was when crumping was like really big. And like it was coming up and like, you know, getting all buck and stuff. And really just tuning into that, just taught myself and I got really, really good at it, right? Where then I was able to dance with a group called Status Quo. They were on America's Best Dance Crew. They were the last group with the Jabberwockies. So I got presented that opportunity, you know, after the show, you know, and then from there, I was also just kind of doing my solo thing as a dancer. And then I made it on the live auditions of So You Think You Can Dance. And then, you know, I did America's Got Talent. And then I was like, okay, cool. I got the dancing down under my belt.
You did America's Got Talent?
Yeah, well, I auditioned for it. I didn't make it on the TV per se, but yeah, did that. Like went to New York and yeah, it was just like full just hustle. You know what I'm saying?
And also at this time, what age are you?
I started off around age 15.
Okay.
Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah.
No way.
Well, not with the Jabberwockies, but yeah, with SQ. Well, yeah, it took some time to like really get that dancing under my belt. So just studying and watching all the videos and just like teaching myself, learning. Because like when you start off with something, essentially you're not really good in. It's the progression, right? Like you get better with more time and energy you put behind it. So I was like, all right, bet I got the dancing down pat. I was like, okay, I could bust a move, you know. Yeah. I was like, all right, let me try music.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start making music, and everybody was like, yo, kill yourself.
No way.
Yeah. They were like, yo, you just ruined your career. It's like you're horrible. I was like,
oh my gosh.
No like, mi corazón. I was like, damn, that hurts.
Did you like preview it to your friends and stuff first?
No, not even. I just jumped in the pool, you know. I just like, head first, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start making music since I got the dancing down under my belt, and I was killing it, and I was doing a lot of shows, and I was doing a lot of things like College Fest, like I was doing a lot of things with the dancing. So I was like, all right, cool. I got the dancing down. I'm known for the dancing. I'm like, music, it is, and people were like, yo. I was like, damn. I was like, all right, cool, but I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna let that fuel me. You know, I'm like, I'm gonna use that as motivation, because that's the thing, right? It's like when somebody tells you can't do something, or you feel like you can, and you want to not only prove to others but to yourself you can, you gonna make it happen.
Absolutely.
So like that was the thing, you know. I was like, okay, cool. I got the dancing. Now let's do the music. And as time went on, you know, as I mentioned before, you progress, right? You start to get better when you put more energy, time, effort. So I got the dancing down under my belt. And then, yeah, so I just kept putting energy into the music, and, you know, I got better, and I got the opportunities presented to me to, you know, open up for Machine Gun Kelly, Waka Flocka, August Alsina, Lil Debbie.
Because of your music? Or
my music.
Oh, okay. Got you.
So that's when that's when I started to get, like, better with my craft, with the music.
Okay. Got ya.
And I got presented more opportunities, you know, because I could continue to put that energy out there, continue to put that, you know, that grind, that hustle, that, you know, that I want it, I'm gonna make it happen. Like ain't nobody gonna tell me. I can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Use that as fuel, like you said, to your fire. Yeah, of course.
You got to. So those opportunities came. You know, another one that kind of really was a big moment for me was Aaron Carter. You know, shout out to him, and also rest in peace to my brother Aaron. He really gave me like a moment in time in Boston, but he was a good friend of mine. We did a lot of things together. And then another person that kind of really gave me a platform too was Bryce Vine.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, during my come up as a musician. And then, yeah, you know, I continued, you know, and then I got to go on tour with, you know, a friend of mine. Her name is Justina Valentine. She's known from like MTV's Wildin' Out.
Fire.
And then just more opportunities, you know, got to go on a couple more tours. I went to Hong Kong for like almost 2 months for my music, and just like full, like, I'm gonna be a musician. I'm gonna be a music artist. And then what really was my like, okay, this is it, was like, you know, when I tatted my face, like, cause you tat your face, there's no
that doesn't go away. That's there.
It's like, you better make it, because you can't be doing nothing else with your face being all tatted like that. So I use that as like more of a like fuel. Like, no regular job. That's like, you're a musician, be a musician. And it's crazy how life works. Though.
Yeah,
you know,
I was gonna say, you just had this big whole build up, and then you'd be like, so this is why it stopped.
No, seriously, it's so what ended up happening was, and kind of like where everything kind of took a turn and a change and a switch for my career was, so my dad was an entrepreneur himself, right? Like, he owned a home improvement company for like 25 plus years.
Okay, yeah.
So even being around him at the time, though, like, I wasn't aware to what entrepreneurship was, right? These words weren't even wasn't being talked about.
Yeah.
But he was like big into the like nightlife, and like he loved to throw his little parties and stuff like that. Okay. And I was around that growing up. Like growing up, I would wake up, and you know, he has the house full of, you know, people dancing, having a good time. He turned the living room into a dance floor.
What ethnicity are you?
So I'm mixed, right? So I'm Black, Native American, I'm Puerto Rican, and then I have a small percentage of French.
Okay, I was gonna say it sounds very Hispanic.
I got a little bit of everything.
I was gonna say your dad sounds very Hispanic.
No, he's Black and French.
Oh, okay,
and Native, and then I get the full Boricua from my mom. She's 100% Puerto Rican.
Cool.
Yeah. So just being around that growing up, you know, and so, you know, he always talked to me, and we always had these conversations about him wanting to, you know, start an entertainment company, open up a nightclub and all this stuff. I was like, oh, okay. And what ended up happening was essentially is, you know, he ended up transcending. So he ended up passing away. And when he passed away, I decided to take a big hiatus on my career.
Okay.
I decided to put all that to the side and really readjust and revalue like what it is that I'm going to do moving forward. And what I ended up doing and deciding was taking all my years of experience being in the industry, and I transformed it into a company. You know, Vamp Entertainment was actually something that he thought of, he created.
Oh, okay.
He had a notebook of a whole bunch of notes.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so special.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because Vamp, a lot of people like, you know, relate that to like vampire, like nightlife, and like, yeah, for sure, but it's actually abbreviations for very amp motivated people. You know, Vamp. You know, and it's like, we passionate what we do. You know, we love like that. What we do.
Okay,
so that's really ultimately like how everything kind of happened for me, and like, you know, where it led me to be here today as a business owner and entrepreneur.
Wow, that's super special. That's crazy. And so, what did you think, like, when you were doing all the readjusting and, like, you know, pivoting? Why did you not think that your music just wasn't aligning with where you wanted your life to go, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it was more so of like, you know, being a music artist is more so being in front of the camera.
Okay,
you know, I was at a point where I was like, okay, how can I hit different and really make an impact? And that's on the business aspect of things, being behind the scenes and behind the camera for the people that, you know, they're the ones that kind of essentially put everything together, right? Like, just like managers, labels, most of those people are behind the scenes, but they're the ones that like are facilitating everything, So I was like, damn, okay. And then even at that point too, it was kind of like going into that transition. It was like, how can I give opportunities to like others that wasn't given to myself? Coming up as an artist. And it was just like, damn, like, I could really change the industry in a sense, in a perspective of like, when you work with certain labels or companies, it's like, or just the industry in general, it's like people have like bad experiences. So it's like, I wanted to also kind of create like a feeling that is unexplainable. And it's like, damn, like, no, there are good, genuine people out here in the industry that's still doing their thing. So
that's super dope. I was going to say, that's like I feel like a universal struggle with like not knowing who you can trust or who you can actually work with, like who's legit, like who's not, especially in like the music industry. So that is fantastic that you saw a problem, recognized it, and decided to do something about it. That is super dope. Thank you. And that's kind of why that's kind of why we work great together, because Powerful Mind was like literally based off like the same things, just seeing that not a lot of companies or not a lot of people are creating those opportunities to bring our creative community together. So that's why, Powerful Mind happening. So, and I think just our similar mindsets about that is super dope.
It's important.
And then so when you were kind of like, coming out of your music career and everything, did you just upset anybody like by being like, I'm not gonna do music anymore? Did you have like a fan base? I can imagine you had to, because
I definitely did. Yeah. I had a good amount of supporters that was like following my journey from like the dancing to the music and stuff like that. But it was more so they supported in general.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they still supported.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the important part, is when you build an audience and people that follow you and watch your journey, I think having that connection to them to just generally support you is important. So when I did the shift and I did the change from like, musician to like business, I still had people was like rooting for me.
Right.
And of course, if you always get those haters, you get those people that like don't think you're gonna be able to do it and watch you from a distance. But it's like, I see you, see me.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what's up. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's so dope. And then what was one of the first things you did with Vamp Entertainment?
The first thing that I did with Vamp was two things. Decided to kind of get my podcasting together and like figuring out those details. But then like I did my first event for Vamp and with Vamp. We booked Jerry Robinson, who was a friend of mine. So he was actually on the tour with Justina Valentine.
Okay.
He signed to Strange Music, which is Tech Nine's label.
Okay.
So I booked him, brought him out to Boston. That was the first event we did.
Yeah. Dope. And what was your experience like for having something in your head, an idea, and then seeing it come to fruition in real life in front of your eyes? What was that experience like for you?
I think the important thing is when you have an idea and you have a thought, you put the action and energy behind it. Because seeing everything it was that I was, thinking of and wanted to create, and ultimately I was able to do so just by the single thought of the thought. I think it's powerful, and always I have those moments of just pure happiness. It was like, damn, I like really envisioned that. I saw it and like, bam, a crazy story that comes to mind. Keep in mind that at this time in my life, I was not even conscious, right?
What do you mean by conscious? So
conscious is a level of awareness, to energy, to reality, to the universe, to the country. So many levels behind consciousness, but being aligned with your 7 chakras as the powerful spiritual beings that we are, how powerful words are, people aren't even aware.
Yeah.
They attract what they say. Not even knowing, right? Because they just, and it's so deep, right? Because we can get into the programs and we can get into all that, the matrix, but I'm telling you,
we have to do a part 2 where we just dive into all of that. Definitely.
But what happened was at a certain point in time, like this was before I turned 25, and so I was really, really telling myself, I'm like, I want to tour before I turn 25. I want to tour. I'm gonna tour.
Tour Vamp Entertainment, or you as an artist?
As me as an artist. So this was like before Vamp even came into the picture. This was me during like artist stages. And I was like, I'm gonna tour. I'm gonna go to California longer than 2 weeks, like literally for years I'm manifesting it, not even knowing, right? And like creating these affirmations. And I said something really deep to my core where I meant it. And I'm not trying to get too I'm not trying to change the feels, but you know, I really said to myself that that if I wasn't going to be able to accomplish this thing at that age, I felt like there was just no point of me existing in the world no more.
Okay.
You know, there was just no point of being here.
Right.
If I wasn't going to do what I knew I was meant to do. I just felt like all the time and energy was being wasted. And it was just like, you know what? Take me out of here. Like, come on, come get me.
It's also, it's also like you said, it's also that like, I feel like the younger in age, it's like younger generations, like even myself still, you know what I'm saying? I'm 23, so I'm still kind of in that boat. But where I had to remind myself all the time that what's happening right here in front of your face is not like the end of the world. It's not the end all be all, like at all.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. And I think what ended up happening was literally before I turned 25, I got the chance to tour. That was when I got the chance to go on tour with Justina.
Nice.
And hit California. So like literally I created that that manifestation.
That manifestation.
It went up to that very moment in time. And it was powerful.
That is very powerful.
Like, you know, the thoughts is what creates your reality, and your mindset also does too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so what do you think are some things that you yourself, you know, out of all your years and out of all your accomplishments and everything that you've been able to bring to life, what is some of the biggest mindset tips or things that you yourself do, like mindset exercises or things of that nature? Yeah,
I think the biggest important thing for people to do is really, one, try and surround yourself in an environment of peace. You know, you can sense the difference when you're in an environment of chaos or negativity or drama or, you know, all that jazz. Yep. So being in an environment or around people who are positive, who are happy, who uplift you, you know, it's so essential. It's important because that ultimately then dictates the outcome of like the mindset, you know. And then again, just having certain practices, you know, for me, I think meditation is something that, you know, I do, and I try and make it a habit to do on a daily basis, quiet the mind. And you can meditate in different ways, right? Like people can go out on in a walk and kind of just like be in nature and kind of have them be at peace. Right. And then others like to, you know, kind of close their eyes, you know, take deep breaths. And that's what I do. I do the breath, you know, work. You know, I close my eyes, I meditate. I leave, sometimes I leave different planes, like, you know, I leave this world and I go to a different world. But that's through meditation. You know, it's so deep how state. Deep do you I was gonna say, like, how deep do you have to be in your meditation to be able to go other places mentally as well? Essentially you have to quiet the mind to the point where there's no thoughts coming in. And it's just blank. Nothing. It's just blank. You know, but then being aware of the stillness, the breath, the stillness, being in the moment. And then it's just like magic, you know. And that's the beauty of this experience. You know, there's a quote where it goes, you know, we're not human beings experiencing a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings experiencing a human experience. And it's true. I agree with that. It is so I think that nothing has to do with our body. Like, we're not our body at all. No, it's a costume, you know. It really is. The soul is what is existence. I agree with that. And then so when you were talking about like your tattoos and everything, I do want to ask you about them. Like what are the reasons behind each one? What do they mean? Because they have to have like a super meaning to it. Facts. And, you know, and be important to you. Well, which one would you say? All of them. Especially like October, so like Joshua October. First of all, I was born in October. So I'm an October baby. That makes sense. That would make perfect sense. I don't know why I didn't come to that conclusion myself. And then it was so funny because the guy, I didn't even tell you this. The guy at the event, like Paulie, Paulie, that was his name, the sound engineer. Yes, Paulie. He was like, you know, I introduced myself. This was right before like you got there. And he was like, and then he said your government name. And I was like,
who is that? I was like, who is that? And he was like, the guy who booked this whole thing. And I was like, I'm not. I'm like, I'm not. And then I was like, oh wait, yes. I was like, that is not.
Yeah.
So that's hilarious. But so where did the Joshua come into place?
Joshua's my middle name. So,
Okay, great.
so, you know, it was like bam, Joshua. You know, October.
Yeah.
Bam.
Okay.
And yeah, you know, that's how that came about.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah.
And so Joshua October, is that also like your name that you went by like when you were doing music as well?
Yes, to an extent. So the first name that that I went by
This is the one where they were like, you're trash?
because you about to get some. You about to get some. It was Monster Breezy.
Oh,
Monster Breezy
okay.
was the name I went by for like over 10 years.
What?
Over
No
like 10
way.
plus years. I was like on that, you know? And then it became a point in my career. I was like, okay, I want people to take me serious, right? Stop comparing me to Chris Brown, right? Shout out Chris though, you know what I'm saying? And I had to change my name. You know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, people ain't taking me serious. So why not? Oh, Monster Breezy.
What would they call you by? They'd just be like, what's up, Monster? Or what's up, Breezy?
Breezy.
Yeah? Okay.
Breezy.
Okay,
I had a lot of comparison to Chris Brown.
yeah.
Coming up.
'Cause- Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
And
that's
then I was
fire.
like, I got to switch it up. And then Joshua October.
Nice. And then at what age was the switch up?
This was like mid high school. Towards the ending of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that you were doing all this really young too. And then also like you said, it just changed and evolved over time. And so like, I feel like that's a concept that not a lot of people understand as well. Like sometimes they think that you're not successful at one thing because you transition into another thing. Did you experience that?
No, I think, you know, I think it's good for
Like when you
people-
started Vamp?
I think it's good for people to test the waters in different fields. You know, when I started Vamp, there was just, this was a time in my life again where I was, you know, touching the level surfaces of consciousness also and being aware of like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner. This is a different mindset, right?
Yeah,
you know, not
completely different switch.
completely different from like an artist, you know, music artist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now to the next one.
Next tattoo.
Yes. Please explain.
Okay, the eye.
I just like this because I like that it's a whole different it's a whole different thing that a lot of people don't talk about like at all. You know what I'm saying? And I think it does really resonate with a lot of people because there's a lot of people who are on the same page with you 1,000% about it all. And I also lately, it's so crazy, but lately like we've been saying the same things. We've been like realizing these things that like you're saying as well. So it's like really cool to be able to pick your brain about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. My eye tattoo, man, that was the start to it all. You know? That was sheesh. Yeah, that was when I went through my spiritual awakening, right?
Okay.
You know, that's when my pineal gland turned on.
Okay.
And pineal gland is an eye that we all have in our brains.
Okay.
It's a small part in our brains, and essentially that tunes into the consciousness of us beings. And yeah, I went through my spiritual awakening, and it's funny because like people be asking me, oh, well, did you like how did you go through it? Like, did you do drugs or like?
Oh
was
my,
you,
yeah.
what
Oh
was
yeah,
it,
because like
you know?
psychedelics and stuff like that. Okay.
And truthfully, no, I went through a lot of heartbreak and a lot of just pain.
I was gonna
that
say,
I had to self-reflect.
Okay.
A lot of pain and suffering I was going through internally, where I had to self-reflect and I had to make changes and choices.
Okay.
And dive deep and then just kind of just educate myself on like myself personally, like the energy I was putting out, and then again like the world that I was living in.
Gotcha.
What was happening, and then a lot of that consciousness came into like truth. That's the thing.
Okay.
Because there's a difference. There's a difference between a thought and a belief of something that you think is real, and then you find out there's a truth to it that wasn't what you were essentially thinking or taught. That was probably passed down from generation to generation.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you find out the truth in things, and you find out government's been lying to you your whole life, you know, and things like that, you just like really tune into like,
Yeah.
whoa, you know? So that's where my eye really opened up, and I had seen things completely different, and I felt things out of this world.
Wow. So is that where the Stay Woke also came into play?
Yeah. Stay Woke was a message that I wanted to remind everyone that I came across that, you know, looked at me in my eyes, essentially to stay aware, you know?
Yeah.
Just however it was that they received it, but to stay aware. And it could be for anything, you know?
Yeah.
So that was like, I was like,
nice.
and at this point, you know, I'm expressing myself through art, through creativity.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
through tats.
absolutely.
And that's just who I was, you know, as a young person growing up. I was always an expressive person through art, and then just being fascinated with the tattoos and the ink. I was like,
Okay.
That's how I express myself. And then obviously a lot of the pain as well, right? A lot of pain we go through and suffering. It was like, give me another one. I need another tattoo right now.
Yeah, tattoo therapy.
Yeah, no, seriously.
And then also the feather. That's also interesting to me.
Yeah. So the feather attached to the eye is essentially kind of within my roots of indigenous culture, Native American.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know, tuning into that, and just kind of educating myself on like the existence of them, and being aware that like, whoa, like this you know, these groups of people, indigenous, like walked on this planet like before Christ, right? Before BC, like these were like essentially the first people on this earth.
Yeah.
Not the ones that they teach you in school, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I know who I'm talking about. He ain't discovered America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's been discovered.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And they came here and they indoctrinated all of us, and you know they changed up the story and the history. But when you equip yourself with that knowledge, you kind of like,
yeah,
you see the truth. You know, you see the truth behind it. So.
And it's also still happening in real time.
Seriously.
In real life, it's still happening in real time.
Facts.
They still just making stuff up. It's crazy.
And that's where a lot of people are still unaware. They're still sleeping.
Yeah.
know? And then the upside down cross is another one, right? Because I get that one a lot. Like people will be
probably
like,
gets the most shook. Out
Yeah,
of it.
no.
It has the people most shook out of all of them.
Seriously, it's funny.
No way, really?
Really?
Oh, really?
Yo, that one is funny because that's like a part, again, essentially of you have a thought and a belief of what you think it is or it means, but then there's truth behind it, and it's like, whoa, wait, what? Right? So the upside down cross, essentially, like we've all watched this in like horror films, movies, and like it all correlates to like you're evil, you know, you worship the devil, you know, you're a devil worshiper, you're evil and satanic and all that stuff, but it's actually the cross of St. Peter.
Okay.
St. Peter was one of Jesus' disciples, and basically he betrayed him, and when he was getting crucified, he said he didn't feel worthy enough to be crucified as Jesus, so he asked to be crucified upside down. And that's where the truth relies within the upside down cross, and it's so deep to so many levels, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, wait, what? Wait, there's another meaning behind it? Like, but yeah, you know. So the ink is just, man, it's just something that I'm gonna continue to get more tattoos. Maybe no more face tattoos. But I'm gonna definitely keep it going with the
It's
ink.
definitely part of your journey for sure, and that's very, very cool. I was finally able to get an explanation because I just wanted to know like what is behind it, like what, you know, everything has to have a meaning, you know,
right?
Which actually not everything has to have a meaning, but just knowing you as a person, I assumed that everything did have a meaning, a meaning behind it, which is super dope. And then just kind of because I think that this could be like a really relatable topic for a lot of people of you coming out of, like you said, heartbreak and, you know, just a lot of real life struggles. Like what did you have to go through and think about, and like what did you have to do to even have that be a positive twist on everything that you're going through? Because that's an incredibly hard thing to do, where unfortunately some people don't get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Some people don't get out of that and are not able to pull themselves out of that place. Facts. You know?
No, 100%. I do want to say, like, I do feel like I am one of the chosen ones in the sense of like awakening, right? Because I come from a family line of a lot of suffering, pain, you know, mental health, right? Like just a lot of deep things that I was going through. where I can now truly say that I no longer suffer from those things because I was able to take myself out of that dark hole. And it was a choice, right? During that time of my awakening, it was like, okay, you could either continue to keep doing the same things, be the same person, right? And blame everybody else and everything else, and not take accountability, not look at yourself in the mirror. Or you can completely change the course of where you're heading. And I think at that point, I was like, I had to change the course. I was like, you know what? I can see what's happening. I felt the universe. I felt all the signs. And it was just something that also my spirit angels and my ancestors was guiding me and pushing me to go towards. So I was like, I'm doing it. And I made it. And it was difficult. It really wasn't easy. But I think just going through that time of like realizing that like, it's just, you can choose to continue to suffer, or you can choose to continue to take yourself out of the suffering. You know?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think I got to a point where I had enough suffering.
Yeah.
You know? I was a really dark person in the sense of my mindset. And of just, again, you know, I was a product of my environment, you know? I'm from Boston. Those who don't know, you know, I'm from Boston, a city called Dorchester, born and raised. Shout out to my city, my stomping grounds.
Yeah.
And you know, being from that environment, it was, again, I was a product. So I was like, all right, you got to take yourself out of it. You got to. There's no choice. You were the chosen one. You got to. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And that's what I did. I kicked myself in the ass, and I continued to push myself through that process.
That's beautiful. Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. That is an incredibly hard thing to do. And it kind of, I can kind of relate to that. I feel like when I was in like the lowest point in my life, it literally was like the same thing. I like woke up one day and I was like, I am so tired of being sad and tired and this and that. I'm like, I'm over it. Like I can't, like, you know, like I literally can't do it anymore. So there's like, you know, that's where I'm at, you know?
Exactly.
And then so what is your why though? Like, do you have a why? Are you your own why? Like, why do you do what you do and continue to push and continue to be innovative and continue to, you know, be creative and shine?
For me, my why, honestly, is my purpose.
Okay.
My why is why I'm here, why I'm living, my existence, why God brought me here, why my mom popped me out. You know, what I'm supposed to be doing in this reality of the universe that we live in. You know, that's my why, and I'm going to fulfill that. That's my calling. Everybody has a calling and a purpose, you know, not those who aren't aware of it, you know, they just haven't been able to figure out what it is that they're here for. And I think once you kind of figure out what it is that you love to do, and that like speaks to your heart and soul, man, you on it. You on it. And that's what it really is all about. You fulfilling your existence, you know, because I know people, you know, they go through the stages of like, oh my God, like, you know, why am I here? This happening to me. I don't want to be here. Again, I only speak from experience, right?
Yeah.
So, but realizing that you're here for a purpose and you have to figure out what it is that you're here for. Like a lot of people, sometimes they go to college and they choose a major that after the 4 years they're done or they get out of college, it's completely different what they end up doing in life. And it's like,
what did you do that for?
You know,
you just wasted a lot of money.
You just wasted all that. But then they realize, oh, okay, well, yeah, I may have wasted all that time, but like now I figured out like what was speaking to my heart and soul, and this is what I'm gonna do, and that's what it's all about, you know. My why is just like, again, like me breaking my generational curses. Like my why is like me changing the whole trajectory of like my bloodline, and
absolutely.
That is honestly, that's my why, and it keeps me going, like my family, you know, and just knowing that like I am impacting those around me, and I'm going to change the industry on certain things, on how it's looked upon, and how business is done.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yo, snaps for that. Snaps for that for sure. And then what are some things that you have in mind for Vamp? Like moving forward in the future, like when you see Vamp in the future, like what do you envision it to be?
It's definitely gonna be a big company, company that works with a lot of high end artists. But the big thing that I see with my company and being different from them all is the experience that we give to those that we work with and touch.
Yeah,
because that's something that you could only feel when you work with them. You know,
Right.
you experience that experience. It's like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
the genuineness, the heart
Yeah.
and soul, the love, the passion, the like, you know, really believing in
Right.
that artist or whatever the
Absolutely.
case may be. So, you know, I really see my company going, you know, extremely to the top of the list where, you know, a lot of major artists may reach out to us and want to work with us, you
Yeah.
know, just because of what they may have heard from other artists that we've worked with, you know, and that's how it works. It's a full circle. Everything is full circle.
Yep.
So the energy you put out is the energy you get back.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately kind of like where I see my company, you know, going is just to the tippity top.
And pardon me, you want to keep working on like events and bookings with artists and
Yeah, definitely.
tours and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Kind of like tell the people like what exactly Vamp does and can offer, and you know how to
Yeah.
reach out to you and collaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, Vamp is an arts and entertainment company. You know, we do artist management, artist development, tour management, anything along the lines with working with musicians, you know, helping careers be the start and the connection between, you know, us and an independent label or a record label and building those partnerships along the way. You know, we also work with other, you know, brands and companies with, you know, marketing, advertisement, social media, marketing and all that stuff. So we're literally in a whole bunch of different pockets, but you know, just really focused on, you know, any artist that we work with is just putting all that energy into that artist and creating a superstar that is literally gonna be like, oh my God, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, like my artist that I work with, Levante, like he's definitely he's that superstar, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, you know. We're really all about, you know, creating dreams into reality.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't believe that you could achieve and you can succeed, but you have to believe.
Believe. That's the number one thing. That's the first step. You gotta believe.
You got to.
If you don't believe, it's definitely not gonna happen.
Right.
Absolutely.
Facts.
That's fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's super dope. And then so when you're transitioning from, you know, into doing Vamp, how were you able to transition like your connections and like everything that you had already established?
Yeah.
How did that kind of all like trickle and kind of form into Vamp?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I was one of those that was just fortunate to keep the relationships that I had with the people that, you know, I came across and I worked with as a musician, as a
Nice,
dancer
yeah.
and stuff. So when I transformed everything into the business, you know, I just reached out to, you know, friends and, you know, old relationships and even the relationships that I still keep in contact to this day in the industry
Yeah.
and industry ties and stuff like that, you know. So the support was definitely there, and I think that's what it's about, you know. Again, it's about keeping people around you that see the vision, believe in what you do, support what you do, and yeah, just, you know, just being able to keep those relationships, because those are important, right? Like
Right.
any relationship that you build along the lines, whether it's business, whether it's friendship, relationship, like keeping that communication, that respect, that transparency, that, you know, that love, that support,
Right.
it's essential. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like what helped me when I did my whole transfer. That was just who I was. I was a genuine person.
Right,
And I've always
yeah.
just wore my heart on my sleeve, and that, you know, that kind of, you know, helped me
Yeah.
along the transition. of my
Yeah, and that
company.
shows because a lot of people still wanted to work with you. Like you said, like if you were not a great guy, I'm sure nobody
Yeah,
would
yeah, like,
still
back up. Hold on, he ain't know that's him.
would want to work with you anymore.
Yeah.
And then
Facts.
so you do a lot. So like you do a lot. You wear a lot of different hats and you do a lot of different things. What are some things that you have to do for yourself to not stretch yourself too thin and kind of take care of yourself while you're doing all these things?
Yeah, I think for me, you know, just having time for yourself is so important. Like the decompressing, like disconnecting, the meditation, reading,
Okay.
being around, you know, someone that you love genuinely. I think those are important, you know, because those play a role on your mindset and the, you know, kind of how it makes you feel and stuff like that.
Right.
So for me, for myself, you know, I just kind of remind myself also that like, okay, you have this going on, that going on, this going on, that going on, but you still got to make time for you, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're not good,
That's super important.
no one's
Yeah.
good.
No,
You know,
yeah.
and that's reality.
Literally.
You know, so reminding myself that like that self-love is so important. You know, I gotta put myself first, love myself, whatever it is that I may need to heal, work on, fix, or just disconnect from, and kind of just like, you know, reevaluate, or just again, kind of just like be in that state of disconnection and meditate, and just, that's what I do. Yeah. I like,
Yeah.
yeah, I make that a point to like do so, because it's important.
Yeah.
Like you could burn yourself out if you don't. You know,
1000%.
it's like, so
I'm
it's,
very
it's,
familiar
it's
with
important.
that.
Yeah, no, it's important, and like even for yourself, you know, I know you got a lot going on. You're doing a lot of things. You're killing it, and it's like, yeah, we definitely got to make time for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Facts.
100%.
Yeah,
Super,
we do.
super important. Because like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup, you know? So it's kind of like one of those things.
Yeah.
That's an analogy I like to use a lot.
that's a
It
fact.
kind of gives a visual to it. And then, so with all of that, what is one of the things that you're most proud of that you've done?
I definitely would say one of the most things that I'm proud of is just kind of like creating the company, like
Yeah.
the start of it, right? A lot of people just have ideas, but they don't ever start.
They never actually do anything.
They don't do it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's the important part is when you have that thought, is to just like really do it, like, you know. So that, and just really all the energy that I'm putting behind the business is just like what fuels me, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, like, okay, like this is working, this is happening, like just keep it going, like I'm locking in this, I'm working with this artist, like just keep it going. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like like what
Are you constantly on your phone?
yes and no. Truthfully, yes and no. Like
Yeah.
I'm the type of person that first my phone's always on silent. So I never hear anything.
Yeah.
I never hear no notifications. I never like, oh my gosh.
Right,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, so it's always on silent. And then like even with my notifications, I don't have my notifications turned on. So even if I get like something on Facebook, Instagram, I'm not aware of it until I like go check my phone.
Right.
For most of the time, if I don't have a busy day or schedule like that, like a lot of times my phone is face down. But then
Yeah.
sometimes, like if I have a lot going on, a lot coming up,
Right.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'm
Like you're
I'm on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say for
I'm on
certain
that
things.
screen, you know,
Yeah.
like, shit, Twitter fingers, I'm going
Yeah,
crazy, you know?
yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, you know what I'm saying? Twitter, like I'm just scattering myself everywhere. But for the most part, I try not to be on that phone like that as much, and just have that time where I'm able to balance it. Because it's important. You know, you can kind of get lost in the swiping and the scrolling and just kind of like all the distractions that social media does. So
Definitely.
I kind of like
Try to
you know,
avoid that.
Yeah. Just have a balance of it, honestly. So yeah, it's like yes and no.
Yeah. Oh, that's fire.
Yeah.
Definitely go ahead and do you have any last questions, thoughts, comments? You definitely need to tell people where to find
Yeah.
you, how to check you out.
No, definitely, guys. You know, check us out, Vamp Entertainment. You can go to vampmgmt.com and you know, check out the website. And you know, just be on the lookout for what we got coming up. You know, I go by the name of Joshua October. You can find me on Instagram, you know, Joshua_October, Facebook, same thing. You know, Twitter, same thing. I'm still calling it Twitter. Listen, it's Twitter. It's gonna forever be Twitter.
Yeah,
I
for
don't know
real.
why they changed it to X? Cause like what?
I ain't never heard no one actually say you got X.
Yeah,
It's always
seriously.
been Twitter every
Yeah.
time.
So, and yeah, you know, just follow your dreams, guys. You know, you have one life, you know, one life. So live it to the fullest, you know, because it's like when you're 60, you're 80, you don't want to look back and have regrets and be like, why didn't I try that? Why didn't I do that? Because at that point, it's kind of too late. You know? Like,
Yeah.
But, you know, just believe in yourself, you know, and push yourself, you know, because that's really what it's all about. It's doing what you love and love what you do. So, yeah, you know, check us out. You know,
Hey.
Joshua October.
October, let's go.
Shout out Powerful Mind and everybody in the building, you know.
Thank
Shout
you.
out Maya.
Thank
you
you,
know,
thank
Ishmael
you.
behind the camera. You know, love to you guys.
Levante.
You know, Levante getting jiggy with it right now. You know, shout out to the camera guy. You know,
Hell
he's
yeah.
doing his thing, getting the behind the scenes.
Hell yeah.
That's what it's about, you know.
Absolutely. All the collaborations, all the love, all the peace, all the great energy. And as always, guys, make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, check them out. We're going to have everything in the description below. And as always, we will see you next time, guys.
Hey.
Peace.
Theme song now.